Get running this fall at Dunkin' with $2 medium iced coffees from 2 to 6 p.m. Try any of Dunkin's delicious iced coffee, like their signature original blend. Or treat yourself to mocha, caramel, or the fall favorite, pumpkin. Always freshly brewed, made just the way you like it. Make time for happy hour and enjoy a $2 medium iced coffee from 2 to 6 p.m. Washington, D.C. runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
Hear that? That's the sound of someone trying to steal your crypto. Every day, thousands of hackers online are doing the same. That's why Arculus uses air-gapped cold storage technology to protect your assets. Using our keycard and wallet app to form a protective barrier, Arculus insulates you from hackers and puts control of your digital assets back in your hands. Order the first truly air-gapped crypto wallet at getarculus.com.
Eric, tonight is a wild card game. The Cardinals and Dodgers are playing. It's 1-1 right now, and I was watching this game earlier. I have no idea what's happening right now because I'm in front of this microphone, but I gotta tell you, if the Philadelphia Phillies look like either of these teams right now, I would be so happy and so enthused about the Philadelphia Phillies and the organization and the team and where it's going in the future, but man, it is so good that this season is actually over. What an exhausting freaking season. We're going to be getting into it more a little bit. I'm going to be talking to Liz Rocher from Yahoo Sports, but dude, I am so glad this Phillies season is over. Like, I know we've said that before in the past, but this one's it was a little different for us. I'm just glad it's over, man.
All right, just give me 1 second. A gigantic spider just crawled up next to my foot. Right, make sure it's going. Okay, we're good.
All right.
No joke. It was, wow. I know spiders don't freak me out, but that one was big. We're good now. Exhausting season. It's a perfect term. I think John Stallness used that term a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And it really stuck with me. And especially if you follow them on Instagram, unfortunately, it was cute during the season when they were still in the thick of it. But by the end of the year, you know, they're posting the Mexican hat thing, or the sombrero, or whatever it is.
I feel bad for the marketing crew. Like, what are they supposed to do? Do you know what I mean? They have a job. They need to put out content. They need to put out material. Like, what? You know what I mean? It's like, what are they going to do? Just put out pictures of like Kutch or something? I don't know.
Listen, I'm on their side. They should get a raise for the bullshit they have to do, knowing the fans all the comments are going to be like, how about you fucking win a couple games?
Right.
That's really what they are. No, it's exhausting. By the end, we were watching the Marlins highlights. You're like, just pack it in.
Yeah.
And by the way, I predicted 81 and 81, and they put me in my place. They won 82 games.
They did. Listen, Len and I predicted 84. You came closer than we did by a game.
Okay, and this is how long it's been. By the way, I'm looking right now at the box score, the Cardinals Dodgers. It's a pitcher's duel, much like I'm sure you remember this back in 2011, Game 5 against the Cardinals in the divisional round, when the 2008 Phillies dynasty ended.
Yeah.
And do you remember who was pitching for the Cardinals in that game?
Oh my gosh.
10 years ago.
Oh my gosh, who was pitching? I can't come up with it off the top of my head here.
He started tonight for the Cardinals. Adam Wainwright.
Oh my God.
Dude,
Jesus.
10 years ago, he's still pitching. He started a playing game for them. And it's been 10 years. Cole Hamels has come and gone, our ace from that era. And Adam Wainwright took the mound and pitched five and a third brilliant innings for the Cardinals. And he's 40. I'm 45. He's 40 years old. And like I said, Cole Hamels has come and gone twice now.
Yeah.
And I saw Wainwright starting. I'm like, wow, it's been a long time since the Phillies have been relevant.
Wow.
It's been a long time.
It's been a very long time. It was a long season. Again, we're going to be getting into it. I'm going to be talking with Liz Rocher from Yahoo Sports, also of the Continued Success podcast over at thegoodfight.com's podcast platform. She's on the Hidden Season podcast every now and then with John Stallness as well. We're going to talk more about this Phillies team for sure, but we also have some Eagles talk we're going to get into with regard to the offensive line, the Eagles defense, and the fact of the matter is that they're probably just not going to get better anytime soon. Going to be a rough year. Our predictions for this week's game against the Carolina Panthers, who seemingly are a decent team this year. And then from there, we're going to get into Urban Meyer. Should he be fired for not traveling with his team back to Florida after a big loss? He was hitting on girls at the bar instead back in California. And then from there, we are going to see and talk about how this Sixers team really does work without Ben Simmons on the floor early in this preseason. We've already seen how some things may be shaping up, and I know Eric wants to get into the Sixers team a little bit more. And now that the Philly season is done, which Major League Baseball teams are we really looking forward to seeing during this postseason? Because there are some pretty good teams that are going to give us some pretty good baseball. So that being said, let's do the intro music here, and let's get into the show. Let's do it. All right, you're listening to the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest-running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world. I'm Jeff Warren here at Eric Leonard. And Eric, the Philadelphia Eagles really do stink for a multitude of reasons. But I do have to say, as we have been talking on this show about the fact that this is going to be a developmental year for this team, the offensive line, they're going through a situation just like they did last year, makeshift offensive lines, but it's giving us the ability to see younger players who are going to be the offensive line starters in the years to come. Eagles rookie offensive lineman Landon Dickerson, he was the 4th highest graded offensive lineman in the NFL this past week. He's a rookie. I think that bodes well for him and his development. Even Nate Herbig, Jack Driscoll, these are two gentlemen who saw a lot of action last year, got a lot of experience on the field. I hate to say that it's good that we didn't have Lane Johnson out there because I love Lane Johnson. He was excused for personal reasons this past game. We know Brandon Brooks consistently injured, and also Jordan Mailata is getting back into form as well. We saw Andre Dillard, and he actually didn't have that terrible of a game, even though, honestly, he really does kind of stink, given his draft value. And Isaac Seumalo going out as well. Jason Kelsey's the only basic starter that we've been seeing out there. I think this offensive line, this makeshift offensive line, Eric, has done a pretty good job, especially this past week. And I think it bodes well for the development of these guys as the future offensive linemen for this team. I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
I'm gonna piss all over your parade here.
Okay.
A little bit. I know he was highly ranked this past week, but
Dickerson, right?
Yeah, Dickerson. Yeah. But honestly, I mean, I'm going right off DVOA on Football Outsiders. Kansas City's a 32nd ranked defense on the rush and the pass.
Yeah, they're not that great.
Not great at all. I'm not sure how much better they would have played with Lane Johnson, or even the offensive line they had in like 2017 against that really bad defense. But a true test is coming up. I mean, I don't know who's watched Carolina, but they're pretty damn good. Yeah. They lost a real tough one this past weekend, but they were in that game the whole time. I mean, Carolina looked pretty good, and defensively, I don't know if they are fast as hell defensively. They're ranked 4th overall in DVOA. They've got a killer pass rush, and I got a feeling down in Carolina this week he's going to be running for his life. Hurts big time.
Okay. Yeah. And we're definitely going to get to our Eagles predictions, the scoring predictions here, but I think we also need to realize where this defense is at too. And Jonathan Gannon, his press conference today, it was kind of all over the place, just talking about his scheme, but also talking about the talent on the field. And the fact of the matter is, Eric, we need to realize that this Eagles defense isn't going to be getting any better anytime soon. On our Patreon platform, I was talking to Andrew DeCecco from InsideTheBirds.com, and he was talking about the fact that, listen, and this is true, folks, this is simple. The Philadelphia Eagles front office is not going to be able to pluck some guy off the street or somebody that doesn't have a contract out there, put them on the middle of the field and say, okay, yeah, you're going to make our team better. That's not going to happen anytime soon. It is going to be a rough year with regard to this defense. There are wide receivers and tight ends on opposing teams who are just killing this team because the linebackers aren't all that great. The secondary is not all that great on this team. They just aren't. That's what we have seen through 4 games so far. It's not going to necessarily get any better. Do I think some of the younger guys can develop? I do. I think it's interesting how they're consistently playing that nickel package, and they have 2 safeties that are deep, Eric. And Jonathan Gannon today asked about, why don't you play some dime? And that means just one linebacker out there. You get an extra defensive back out there, and that might be Zech McPherson, who is the rookie. I think that's who would be out there. He just said, we're not ready for that at this point. So essentially, Jonathan Gannon is saying, I'd rather keep what we have out there at the linebacker position than have rookie Zech McPherson come in and try to develop him more. I don't know if that's a good strategy. I don't. But I know that this linebacker core is really, again, the Achilles heel, not just of this defense, but just of this Eagles team. They need to invest in this position down the road and in the future, man, because like it's just gonna continue to be rough, and it stinks that the front office hasn't invested in linebackers, high quality linebackers over the past few years, man.
They never have historically, really. I mean, they've had some Jeremiah Trotter. I mean, they've had some really good players throughout the years, but like that's just a position they've never invested highly in. It's been I mean, decades as an Eagles fan for me. And I have no issues, man, trying some different things, because with the loss of Brandon Graham, the pass rush is just not there.
Yeah, the rush defense is awful too.
It's terrible. And why not actually try and play to your strengths? I mean, right now, Eagles are 28th overall in rushing DVOA defensively, and 22nd passing DVOA. So I guess it's a strength that you're 22nd overall, as opposed to almost in the basement for your rush defense. I would maybe try dime and just see what the hell happens, especially against a team in Carolina with. I mean, I know their quarterbacks played well, but McCaffrey's hurt. Like, why not put a little pressure on Darnold down there and make him beat you with the pass? I would give it a shot at this point, because I think if you go in with the base defense you've been doing without Brandon Graham, I think you're just. I know we're not doing predictions yet, but I'm just looking at this from a perspective of who they're playing next, and it's just going to be. I just see a bad loss coming.
I see some bad losses coming down the road. I mean, even after Carolina, you got to throw something against the wall and see what sticks this year. You have to do it. And from there, you are going to see whether or not guys are able to develop in a certain scheme. I think Jonathan Gannon needs to realize that and understand that. And I think that this coaching staff, like everybody, there are so many people that are saying that are blaming the coaching staff. And believe me, especially after the Dallas game, there was a lot of blame to go around. Offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, when your running backs only had 3 carries the entire game, yeah, there's a lot to blame with regard to the coaches, but there's only so much the coaching staff folks are going to be able to do with the amount of talent that is on the field. Like, there's only so much they can do. There's only so much Jonathan Gannon can do with this linebacker core and with some of these cornerbacks here. I know Steven Nelson's there, Darius Slay, but listen, they're getting beat. They're getting beat up. They just are, Eric.
Is that your professional advice?
I guess, yeah.
So I'm gonna go with my favorite all-time saying that bad color analysts use. It's not about the X's and the O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes.
The Jimmies and the Joes.
And in the Eagles' case, they don't have any Jimmies and Joes or X's and O's going on. This is a very young coaching crew, and they just don't have a lot of good players. This is not difficult to ascertain watching this team. They beat the Falcons, who are really, really bad. Matt Ryan's done. He's as done as Ben Roethlisberger, if you've watched him play so far this year. And they played a really gimmicky offense and beat a crappy Falcons team. And since then, when they collapsed against the Niners, didn't score, that was kind of the death knell, in my opinion, of the season. Like, if they didn't win that game, the way they lost that game, I feel like it's going to snowball now.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chiefs played like absolute shit. this past week, and they still won by 24 points. It wasn't even close. I mean, Mahomes had 5 touchdowns, and they did not look that good, the Chiefs.
They scored 41 freaking points against this defense. And Dave Esser, who joined us on the post-game show, I mean, he said already this season, Jonathan Gannon has had, in case you didn't listen to it, already this season, Jonathan Gannon his defense has given up 40 points, at least 40 points, twice this season. Jim Schwartz did it once during his entire tenure as the defensive coordinator for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give them a little leeway. I mean, the Cowboys have a dynamic offense, and so the Chiefs. But still, it's a young. We kind of knew this was going to happen.
Yeah,
we ate our words week 1. Well, yeah, sure, but we have not eaten our words since then. This is exactly what this team is playing like, what we talked about prior to the season. It's an absolute rebuilding year. And can this coaching staff gel and get better throughout the year? And can the offense look good? And you kind of know what you need in the draft? Because I don't know about you. I have this website, tankathon.com, right now up in the NFL. And if the season ended right now, the Eagles have 4, 6, and 9 in the first round of the draft.
Jesus.
If Carson Wentz has to play 9, whatever the percentage is, but
yeah,
I update this every day, even though the teams aren't playing. I still hit update for no reason because it's so exciting. But yeah, I mean, I think we kind of know this is going to be kind of a throwaway year, and you're just looking for major bright spots and who can be part of this team going forward. Hopefully, the coaching staff is, and thankfully, we didn't. Our next topic's coming up. We didn't hire that person who we're about to talk to, by the way.
Sweet. Thank you. Yeah. Well, let's real quick, Eric. Let's just get into our predictions for this week's game. Carolina Panthers against the Philadelphia Eagles. Panthers lost this past week, of course, the Cowboys, 36-28. It was close. Listen, this Carolina team, they held their own offensively with 379 total yards. Sam Darnold scored 4 total touchdowns. Hubbard averaged 4.4 yards per carry in Christian McCaffrey's absence. The defense, the Panthers, they gave up a season high 433 yards, 245 on the ground. I think that the Eagles can pile on some yards. I do think so. Listen, Jalen Hurts, for better or worse, he's got an over 66% completion percentage. He's at 1,167 yards in the season, 7 touchdowns, including a career high 387 passing yards last week against the Chiefs. And like you said, yes, absolutely terrible defense. Probably the worst defense in the league. However, I don't think, as you mentioned earlier, that the Eagles' offense is going to be able, and especially a makeshift offensive line still, who is developing, as we talked about earlier, I don't think they're going to be able to contend with the Carolina Panthers pass rush, especially the blitz. I'm going to be picking the Panthers to win this game by a score of 28-16. That's my scoring prediction. What do you think it's going to be, buddy?
I was going to say 28-14.
Okay.
I'm right with you. I think they're 5th against the pass in DVOA, the Panthers, and I know that the Cowboys diced them up, but the Cowboys are. I mean, come on, I think they're far and away the best team in the NFC East. I don't think it's even close.
Right.
No, I think Carolina is really good defensively. They're probably a year ahead of where they thought they would be in terms of making the push to getting back to where they used to be.
Yeah.
I think it's just a bad spot. They're coming off a really bad loss against the Chiefs at home. There's really what else are you playing for at this point? I'm sure there's a feeling in that locker room we're not going to the playoffs,
right?
And we're going to Carolina, a boring state. There's not much to do.
Sorry to our folks in the Carolina region. I know there's a few of you,
but I'm talking a high paid athlete. I'm going to the ATL or Miami. I don't want my
right.
Like Durham, North Carolina. I'm going to take the Tobacco Road tour. I don't know. I don't know. It's just not it's not fun. I got to imagine they're not thrilled to go down there. I think Carolina is really good. I think they're going to kick our asses. It's going to be closer. 2014 is not crazy, but I think they're going to crush us. And can I just ask you, you reeled off Jalen Hurts stats. Has he shown you anything so far? There's a whole season ahead of us, right?
Yeah.
But has he showed you like flashes of anything where you're like, he is a keeper? Like, there's no need to look at quarterback in next year's draft.
No, I don't think that at all. I'm not there at all. I do think, as I mentioned on the post-game show this past week, he's making throws and completing passes that he needs to make as an NFL quarterback. Most of those passes, as we've been seeing, Eric, they're on like the perimeter. They are outside of the numbers. He's not throwing over the middle of the field. He's hardly throwing down the field. It's probably because of play calling. Then again, if you're on Twitter and you see all the, quote, expert analysis from individuals out there, and you do see some of the tape, you see that he is missing Quez Watkins a lot. Wide open down the field. He's missing Devontae Smith a lot down the field, open, and just other open routes, intermediate type of routes in the middle of the field. And I don't know if it's just him. He does hone in on one specific player, and it's really been players that are either in the flats, it's an out route, again, outside the numbers, and we're just not seeing a lot over the middle. You can't play quarterback in the NFL and be successful if that is going to be your consistent game. You can't do it. So to answer your question, I haven't seen anything special from him that would lead me to believe the Eagles are currently saying in the front office, yeah, we got to keep this guy for a long time. We got to give this guy a contract extension. Nothing like that at all. But it hasn't been awful either, I think it's what we were talking about at the beginning of the season. It's kind of like just kind of middle of the road, and he's still trying to figure things out, and I think the coaching staff's still trying to figure things out too.
I agree, and his offensive line's done him no favors, but I do feel like he has weapons around him.
Yes.
And he's just missed a lot of plays. And I of course you have to give him the whole season just to see what you have. But it's just a couple. He does have some players where you're just like, he just doesn't have it.
Right.
He's just not that special player. And what's funny, this past week I was, Miami's just falling apart, which is awesome for us because we get their pick. But I mean, wouldn't Miami rather have him than Tua at this point? I mean, they both came
probably.
Yeah. And if you're a Miami fan, are you not kicking yourself that you have Tua instead of Justin Herbert at this point?
Yeah.
How did you not? Oh my God. Like that might be like an all-time like Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning situation. That dude's awesome. And the Tua thing is just falling apart. Like if Miami came to me and said, we'll give you a second-round pick for Jalen. Sure, go for it. We'll take it. Like,
Isn't it amazing, though, how certain players can go into a system and they can look like garbage, and then, say, hypothetically speaking, Tua would go to like Detroit or something, or Tua may go to Cleveland or something in a couple years and flourish there. We're seeing it with Sam Darnold. We were talking about Sam Darnold earlier. I mean, the guy scored 4 total touchdowns this past week against the Cowboys. When he never did anything like that before, I don't think, when he was with the Jets. So it really depends on where these guys are going, how they're coached, and again, how these coaches play to their strengths. So, like, I don't know. Tua could thrive in another system. Who knows? Jalen Hurts, maybe he could thrive in another system. I would doubt it, because I think we're probably seeing the best of Jalen Hurts at this point. That's what I think. But, like, it really is bizarre how you can take a player, especially at the quarterback position, move them to another team and scheme, and they're either gonna flourish or they're gonna just completely take a crap.
And in defense of Jalen Hurts, he's dealing with a rookie head coach who's doing play calling for the first time in his career. So it's really not fair to him either. So I'm not busting on the kid yet. It's just not a good situation for him professionally. That they're gonna have 3 first-round picks maybe next year, and he's got to be awesome to secure a spot next year and not be the backup.
Right.
It does kind of suck.
Yeah. Well, listen, if Nick Sirianni doesn't work out, Eric, maybe Urban Meyer could work out. This fucking guy. We want to give our thoughts on this situation here, because I really do think what we're seeing with this Urban Meyer controversy, and people are talking about whether or not he should be fired for his actions at the bar, hitting on that one lady that we saw on that video. He did not travel back with his team to Florida after his fourth loss of the season. I mean, should he just continue to be disgraced on social media as kind of payback for what he's kind of done? But then I look at Urban Meyer, who was the college coach, right? The college coach that really wasn't ever held accountable for various indiscretions when he was, whether he was at Florida, whether he was at Ohio State. It's amazing to me how he was able to get away with certain things. You know what I mean? Like, just, and now it can't happen in the NFL because it's a different animal, dude. And I think the players are holding him accountable to an extent when there's reports coming out saying that, no, we're not really with this guy. Even the owner really slapping him in a way, which I thought was a pretty decent statement from that owner, who really is nowhere to be found from all indications. But anyway, I don't know. What are your thoughts with it? I'm kind of all over the place with it here.
I'll start with this. Urban Meyer's long been a piece of shit.
Yes.
I mean, it goes back to Florida. I mean, some of the kids he recruited down there, I mean, he recruited a double murderer. I mean, like, that played for the Patriots for how many years?
He did.
I mean, he multiple, and it was kind of, he was kind of shielded with the Tim Tebow thing, but he had some real issues down there, and then went to Ohio State and won some championships. But like, I give me the name of one older college coach that ever moved to the NFL and did a fucking thing.
Right.
College has become so gimmicky, and the NFL is kind of picked and pulled from those gimmicks, and for better or for worse. But they've also pulled the young coaches who are kind of forward thinking with the offenses. Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, just went into LA and beat the Rams. In their spot, they're 4-0 right now. Like, I don't think he's a great coach, but he's got an awesome offense right now. I do think the younger college coaches coming up can flourish because they still have that drive, that fire to they're crunching tape 12 hours a night. They're still doing the grind, as opposed to an Urban Meyer who's in what is it, his 50s now. He has how many years in college behind him? And I text all you guys when Urban Meyer thing, and they're the top pick, they're gonna get Trevor Lawrence. I just remember being like, yeah, but they hired Urban Meyer. Does anyone think this guy's gonna like? I guarantee he crunches tape for 2 hours, and he's done at like 2 p.m.
Yeah,
like, he's tired. He's already won his rings in college. Like, where's the fire in him to be an NFL champion? I never understood the hiring. When he brought Tim Tebow in the preseason, I was like, that is so stupid.
A lot has happened with him and this team, going back to OTAs when he basically didn't learn the rules and how the collective bargaining agreement says how OTAs should be run. I think he was fined $100,000, and the Jaguars themselves were fined like $200,000. Like, he just no attention to detail, really.
It's like hiring a disgraced CEO that was like fired during the 2008 like financial crisis.
Yeah.
Bringing him into your company, not as the CEO, and he's like, well, I've done this before. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm successful. I don't fucking care anymore.
Right.
That's exactly what happened in Jacksonville. Like, he's not. I highly doubt he's part of personnel choosing. I mean, you take Trevor Lawrence. That's a no-brainer. And like I said, he's not doing the day-to-day stuff that you have to do as a first-year NFL coach. He's a first-year NFL coach. He's the same as Nick Sirianni, in my opinion. I don't care what he's done in college. When you're at Ohio State and Florida, you get all the best players. Well, you're in Jacksonville now. They suck ass.
Right.
So you got to do triple time to get that team just to 500. And I didn't think for 1 second he was going to, on top of being just a shitty human being. I mean, he's proven it how many times. He had that assistant coach at Ohio State that he tried to cover up the abuse with the guy's wife.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
He's done so many things. Like the fact he got pictures taken of him with some girl, it's not his wife. Hey, that's on you, dude. I'm talking about your professional career. and you didn't fly home with the team after you got humiliated.
That's a big thing.
It's huge. And the team, I mean, when you see week 4, the team has lost respect for the new head coach, like, dude, you might want to just fire him, like, right on the spot, because it ain't coming back.
Right. And I think, too, it's important to talk about it. Like, it's not just about the fact that he was flirting with a girl at the bar and it was caught on video. You know, like, that is for him to sift out with his family and his wife. And what I'm going to say here, folks, please don't misinterpret any of this as some kind of, like, you know, celebration of the ethical standards of the NFL, because it certainly isn't, because the NFL has its own problems, but the NFL is not college. And I know that sounds simplistic, but in college, if Urban Meyer couldn't get a player to play by his rules, he could threaten to recruit someone who would. In college, if Urban Meyer wanted to abandon his team after a road game like he just did, you know, the boosters and the administration, they'd let it slide, because in that twisted world that college football has become, kind of what you were saying, Eric, you know, winning football games is placed above everything else. You also talked about him harboring a serial abuser on his coaching staff for years, you know, but it's not so easy to hire a racist bully in the NFL. And again, don't misinterpret this for me saying the NFL is some sort of ethically clean type of league, because it certainly isn't. But if he hadn't been caught on video last weekend, you know, all of this backlash might not be happening. And in us talking about it here, it's the standard, I think, which I think is really starting to paint a light as to who he is, who he has been, and is probably not good for the NFL. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm going to be a cold person here right now. Just strip away the ethics.
Okay.
Just give me games. Give me wins, right? I guarantee you, number one, in college, if a 5-star recruit was like, well, screw you, man. I have 4 more 5-star recruits behind you. I can just replace you with. No problem, dude. Like, get out of my way. I'm Urban Meyer. I run this entire university, not the president of the school. Whereas with the NFL, your first-year head coach, you're coaching adults who make a lot of money. To earn their respect, you can't come in with the gimmicky college crap, the bringing Tim Tebow in saying he's a good dude, right, guys?
Right.
Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'd be like, I'm 32. I have a ring. Like, I make $12 million this year. What do I care about Tim Tebow and his prayer circle? I'm not bashing Tim Tebow. I'm just saying, like, it's just a weird thing to do.
Right.
And I guarantee you, he came into that locker room like, I'm Urban Meyer. Look at these fucking rings. By the way, they're college. And I've already been here. I've already done this. Like, I don't have to work hard at this because I am who I am. It was such a dumb, bad hire, especially with bringing in that young quarterback who's maybe an all-time, like, he could be like, he's probably a Peyton Manning type, or
right.
Andrew Luck type of talent. Why not get a Cliff Kingsbury type into that role, like, to work with him and build him up and grow with him, like Sean McVay probably wanted to with Jared Goff, but he realized Jared Goff sucked. But, like, why not bring a young college quarterback or college coach in that's really forward thinking, that could really develop him? Instead, you bring in this old timer who just, I just knew it was going to fail. I knew it was going to be I didn't know it'd be week 4 failure, but I can't imagine he even makes it through the season. That's how bad this is going to go.
Yeah, I do not believe he is going to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars or any NFL team or even any college team next year.
And I couldn't be happier because he's an asshole.
Yes. All right, great way to end that segment for sure. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, follow us, and any other podcast platform out there. We'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to us. Also, rate and review the show. That does help us out. And if something ever happens to your podcast feed, you can go over to our website, PhiladelphiaSportsTable.com, and check out all of our shows there. Make sure to follow Eric on Twitter at BrickPollitt. You can follow me at Jeffrey_Warren and the show at Philadelphia PST. Right now, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with more Philly sports talk. Let's take that quick break now.
Today, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part? there's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
With Sunmade, whole fruits' natural sweetness opens a world of imaginative snacks. Take a sweet or sour adventure with fruity raisin snacks. Chill on creamy, delicious yogurt-covered raisins. And for ultimate yumminess, try s'mores granola bites. Because with Sunmade snacks, goodness really is delicious. Get a taste at sunmade.com/imagine that.
All right, we are back, and Eric, we're seeing the Philadelphia 76ers on the floor for the first time during this preseason. Saw some action against Toronto Raptors. Of course, Ben Simmons not on the floor. The boy is getting fined a lot of money, and apparently his team, I should say his handlers, they're a little shocked, including Ben, about how much these fines really are. Going to the Players Association, complaining about it, and they're like, what the hell are you coming to us for? What are we going to do about it? We already told you there's nothing we can do about this. But anyway, that being a separate situation, what we are going to see on the floor this preseason, I thought it was interesting. Article that was in The Athletic this past week, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting who wrote it, but Tobias Harris was actually quoted in it, and he was talking about Tyrese Maxey, because Tyrese Maxey is certainly going to be having this new role, really that point guard role that Ben Simmons had over the past couple seasons here. And with Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris said it's not just a new role for Maxey, but it's really created a new role for kind of the other four guys on the court as well. Assignments have changed and altered a little bit, and we're going to see this manifest itself throughout this preseason and, of course, during the early parts of the regular season. So just kind of wanted to get into it with you, Eric. Like, part of me is very intrigued by this. Do I think Tyrese Maxey is going to set the world on fire? I mean, he was a shooter in college. He was a scorer in college, and that's why he was drafted by the 76ers. Seems like this is the, quote, best case scenario for this team and this organization at this moment. But it is going to be fascinating to see how he develops in this role. Like, what are you thinking here?
Well, okay, so I'll go over what I'm seeing in preseason and what it means minus Ben. But then I have to get to Ben because everything hinges on what's actually happening with the Simmons situation. And Harris has to come out and speak up for Maxey and how good he looks. Because they're going into the season as if Ben's not going to play. And Doc knows this, and they're going to be dreadfully worse defensively, right?
Oh, yeah.
They almost have to go to a fully total offensive mode as a team, because taking Ben out of that role, like who the outside of Matisse, like who the hell's their defenders, right? Like replacing Maxey replacing Benson with Maxey, like I can't. It's hard to explain how far they fall defensively.
Right.
Statistically, it's so bad. But I do like that Doc is just kind of going with Maxey at the point and seeing what the hell you have. And offensively, they only had one game. I think they play tomorrow night against the Raptors again. It's kind of Andre Drummond had some nice plays, but I don't even know what to think, because I have to get to the Ben thing.
Yeah, let's get into that here.
I don't think Ben's going to be on the team. I don't think Maxey's going to be on the team by the time the season starts. Ben's not going to report. But at the same time, Ben's not going to sit out. Like in baseball and in football, it's a totally different situation when a player wants to sit out and kind of renegotiate his contract. Like, Ben's not renegotiating. He has a 4-year deal. He's making $32 million this year or something.
Yeah.
No player, even with Clutch behind him, his representation, is gonna leave $32 million on the table. Like, that's insanity. That will never happen. Even though he has sponsors and ads behind him, he's not gonna leave that much money behind. There's no way Daryl Morey's not going to make some sort of move. And as the preseason moves forward, I think some team's going to get desperate, and either a superstar is going to get upset and want to move, or you're going to go to a dumb team and make a trade where I have to almost assume that Maxey would be part of the deal, and then this whole narrative where they're talking about Maxey being the point and kind of a new offensive flow.
Yeah,
it's going to become it's going to become a nil conversation, because I think what the team's going to look like in like a month has no resemblance to right now.
I think that's really interesting. I do, because, but does it? What's happening then in the preseason is just basically null and void to a certain extent. Don't you think?
Well, that's the downside. Like I watched the one game. They have one tomorrow, but I don't feel like I'm going to get anything out of it, because I don't think there's no way this is going to be the team, because how the hell can they go into the season without Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey is the point guard, and you've got the Nets, the Bucks, rejuvenated Heat team in the same conference? You have no shot. Like Embiid could average 50 points a game, and you're going to be a 3 seed. Like, you're not going to win the Eastern Conference. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And it's hypothetically speaking, though, Eric, and this may sound elementary, though, like, say Maxey is on this team. I mean, guards take a long time to develop, from what I understand. And I don't know a lot about basketball development. I'll say that right off the bat. Like, I don't know a ton about basketball development. That's more, your wheelhouse. I mean, especially those point guards that are going to be switching from being a scorer to a creator. That's going to take some time. And if Tyrese Maxey is a part of this team, this team is going to be actually like growing pains again here.
And for all of Ben's faults, he is a creator.
He is, yes.
Last season he was 4th overall in. It's a weird stat, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. He's 4th overall in generating 3-point shots, made 3-point shots. For all of the missed layups and the bullshit not shooting, like he makes the other team collapse into the lane, and it keeps the 3-point line open for the real shot makers. He's really good at that. And Tyrese Maxey is not that whatsoever. He's not a creator. He can score, and that's what he was drafted for. And I think that was the role they envisioned. But for him to be the creator point guard at 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, like, that's not what he's good at. And I can't. And plus, he's sloppy. Like, you talk about development, he's not ready for this role. And Doc will not put up with that bullshit for 1 second.
Yeah.
If he 8 turnovers in one game, you think he's going to start him the next game? There's no effing way. And I just can't imagine that that's what the Sixers are going to go into this season with a huge payroll, with a ton of expectation. I can't think for 1 second that they're gonna be like, hey, yeah, this is it, guys. This is it, all fans. Like, holy shit, no.
But then what does it do to Joel Embiid too? Because this has ramifications for him. I mean, at the end of the day, Eric, I'm actually thinking that Daryl Morey may see this year as maybe having 2 possible outcomes because of Joel Embiid. Like, if Embiid is able to stay healthy and they can acquire a star for Simmons, I mean, it's kind of looking a little unlikely just right now as we're recording this October 6th here, then they try to compete for the title. If not, it's like a, quote, investment year where they develop the young guys, they load manage Joel Embiid and get another decent draft pick while waiting to trade Ben at the deadline or next offseason for maybe non-star assets. And if he's really about, maximizing like overall championship equity, and I think that he is, like, that could be the play to make. I mean, what you don't want to do is run Joel Embiid into the ground chasing like the number 4, number 5 seed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Morey is fully aware of that. There's no way they're going to do that. And you cannot go. Okay, so the Joel Embiid window, people think, oh, we have him signed for 4 or 5. It's not a 4 or 5 year window. You've got like 2 years with this guy.
Right.
That's how the NBA works now. I mean, even Giannis winning this past season, he was on like a 1 year window. If the Bucks collapsed and didn't win the title, who the hell knows what happens to Giannis, this offseason, even with the contract. Like, he knows he has like a 2 year window with Embiid. There's no way they're going to throw away a year and be like, oh, we'll get good draft picks next year. You're not going to. Like, you're just wasting another season of this guy who could get hurt at any moment. And you're also compounding it with having the dark cloud of the Ben Simmons situation hovering over the whole fucking thing, spritzing piss on the whole season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you're going to have a point guard who's 6 feet tall and having 8 turnovers a game. Like, there's no way Daryl Morey, a super duper qualified GM, probably a top 3 in the league, is going to allow that to happen. I think some move is going to occur. I still think the Kings are the play because they are just horribly run. And if that's the play, at least then we can have an honest conversation. Like, okay, you've got Buddy Hield and you've got what's the kid's name? Oh God, Halliburton.
Like, yep.
So maybe that's something there. Like, then you got to have a conversation. Like, okay, championship wise, conference wise, we can kind of match up here. But what you have now is just kind of fodder until the Ben Simmons thing happens.
Right. All right. Let us know what you're thinking. PhiladelphiaSportsTable@gmail.com. We read your email here on the show and respond to it. If it's about Ben Simmons, we'd love to hear from you for sure. Now, real quick, Eric, let's just really quick talk about, now that the Philly season is done, we talked about it a little bit during the intro. The playoff season is right here, and I love postseason baseball, and I haven't seen the Philadelphia Phillies in it now for quite some time. We have not seen the Phillies in a postseason game in over 10 years here. But I just wanted to get into, like, what Major League Baseball teams are we kind of looking forward to seeing during the postseason? And I got to say, and I kind of have two smart-ass responses for this, to be honest. And the first one is the San Francisco Giants, who had a record of 107-55, being managed by Gabe Kapler. I actually think Gabe Kapler is going to get to the NLCS. I really do. And Philly is going to go crazy. Philly sports fans are going to lose their fucking minds. And I think in the American League, and I don't think this gets enough talk, enough headlines these days, because there's more nonsense to write about. But the Houston Astros, they got, because of last year and what happened with the pandemic, they essentially they skated in terms of what happened to them and that organization getting caught cheating. I want to hear constant boos from them or against them during this postseason. I want to hear that. I want to hear the Houston Astros being booed constantly. So in terms of what I'm looking forward to during this postseason, Eric, it's the Astros getting booed constantly. Hopefully something can happen. Hopefully some sort of movement or momentum can happen where they get what they deserve in terms of fan reaction, baseball fan reaction. And I think it'd be amazing if Gabe Kapler actually was able to pull off getting to the NLCS and even winning it. Jesus.
Here's the problem, though. They won, 107 games, which, God bless them. That's incredible. They're boring, though. They're really boring to watch. They win baseball games. Like, if it's a Giants-Rays World Series, ooh, oh, my God. You'd have to be a Len Hunsicker to enjoy that piece of shit. I love the bunt, that old. No, I am totally, I am totally on board for a White Sox Brewers World Series.
That'd be great.
I was actually texting my brother earlier, because we had the topic, and I'm like, what do you think? And he texted me Brewers White. I was like, holy, me too, dude. It'd be a perfect scenario where the White Sox, who are really well run, a really fun team, good pitching, and they hit the shit out of the ball.
Yeah.
They've got Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, Yohan Moncada. I really like that team. And again, and also the Cubs get all the play, but if the White Sox win again, like, that's their second title in, like, how many years? 2005, I think they won.
Yeah.
And I remember when they won, the Red Sox won in 2004 and the White Sox won in 2005. It was the first time in ages. And no one gave a shit.
Nobody cared.
No, but I was like, that's awesome. They won too. No one. I want them to win again. So, like, the Cubs fans be like, oh, what the fuck? That's not fair. I like that team a lot, and I really like the Brewers. Again, a really good fan base, a lot of fun. Christian Yelich is so good. They pretty much stole him away from the Marlins, and I just can't handle the Braves, Dodgers, Cardinals, Giants. Those teams just kind of bore me, all of them. I mean, Dodgers are really good, but they were there last year. But Brewers, White Sox, again, super duper low ratings, but a series I will watch the shit out of. And by the way, they would beat the Astros, the White Sox.
Oh, they would.
And that would make America all super duper happy.
Yes. I think the city losing its mind in one way, shape, or form would be hilarious, given that Philly sports at this moment just is it stinks. It stinks all the way around. I think it would be great reading. Oh, Philly sports Twitter would be fantastic.
The worst case scenario for Philly sports is either a Giants Red Sox World Series, because it's like, well, we hate the Red Sox, right? Because their fans are just dicks.
Right.
Or we cheer for Gabe Kapler, who tanked our team for how many years? But I don't think it was all his fault in hindsight. I mean, this team is just kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
But I got to say, though, like, I'm looking at some of these teams like the Dodgers and the Cardinals, and I'm seeing Paul Goldschmidt, Max Scherzer. Maybe the Phillies should continue down the road of signing like older established players. It seems to work out just a little bit, as long as you have like the right older players. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they just haven't been able to find the right one.
Well, the problem is those teams also sprinkle in like really good young players, which we have fucking zero.
None.
Farm level.
Yeah. All right. Very good, Eric. I'll let you go here. Follow Eric on Twitter, @BrickPollitt again, and it's good talking to you, buddy, but we're going to take a quick break right now, and then when we get back, we are going to have a fantastic interview with one of our good friends here at the PSC Podcast Show from Yahoo Sports, Liz Rocher, to talk about this Phillies season, some reflections that we're going to be getting into. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
When your celebration of life is prepaid in advance, it becomes a gift from you to your family later. Because no one should have to plan for a loss while they're experiencing one. Paying in advance protects your loved ones and gives you the peace of mind you deserve. Let us help you plan every detail with professionalism and compassion. We're your local Dignity Memorial provider. Find us at dignitymemorial.com.
Get running this fall at Dunkin' with $2 medium iced coffees from 2 to 6 p.m. Try any of Dunkin's delicious iced coffee, like their signature original blend. Or treat yourself to mocha, caramel, or the fall favorite, pumpkin. Always freshly brewed, made just the way you like it. Make time for happy hour and enjoy a $2 medium iced coffee from 2 to 6 p.m. Washington, D.C. runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
All right, let's get into some Phillies talk right here. I know you've been waiting for it. It's what we're throwing down on the table.
And now, on the table.
And it is great to have back on the show to talk about this piece of garbage organization, the Philadelphia Phillies. I love how I just intro it just like that. She is the writer and editor over at Yahoo Sports. Absolutely love reading her material and love listening to her voice on the Continued Success podcast. And she is also very frequently on the Hitting Season podcast with our good friend John Stallness. We have Liz Rocher this week. Liz, thanks so much for jumping on this week.
It is my pleasure. I love talking to you and the other guys when they are here.
Yeah. What a piece of crap season organization here.
We lived through it, and that's all we can say.
That's all we can say. I have to say that, when I read, I think it was Jim Salisbury's tweet from earlier today, and he was specifically talking about what Dave Dombrowski was saying that they need. What they need to do this coming winter. The need for a big bat in the middle, a leadoff man, a shortstop, a closer. I think it's a good start, don't you, Liz?
I mean, who couldn't be excited about that?
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh, just the exhaustion that this season was, Liz. The exhaustion. I was reflecting just not on this season, but previous seasons too. Remember the Ryan Sandberg season was pretty rough. But I don't remember it being this rough for some reason. Why do you think that is?
it was a long time ago. And our memories have clouded.
True. I mean, very true.
That's one of those things. Like, I remember thinking at the time during those lean years, like, you know what? In some years, we'll look back and we'll be like, you know, we got through it. They weren't so bad.
Right.
And I think that is what's happened, because I remember living through them. They're pretty unpleasant. They almost lost 100 games once. Yeah. That was depressing. Yes. I honestly don't know if this frustrating year is ever going to dim.
I don't think it will.
If it's ever going to dim.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just frustration. There was a lot of it. But there was anger. There was despair. There was, hey, why don't you guys get vaccinated?
Right,
hey,
right.
Why aren't you vaccinated yet?
It actually had something to do with how the season went, Liz, right?
Yes. I mean, I'll admit, I had a really tough time after that, after the reports came out about the Phillies vaccination rate and all of that.
Yeah.
It was tough for me to get back into the team for a while.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it remained tough for the rest of the season. I listened to games, I watch highlights, but sitting there and watching it, I'm just looking like, why aren't you vaccinated?
Exactly.
Why are you like this?
It's not the main reason why things happened the way that it did, but it was a contributing factor. Part of the dominoes that fell was because of that. Nobody's going to tell me that it wasn't a part of what happened with this team this year, because when you have talent that's not on the field producing like we all expected was going to potentially happen this year, and they're not there because of health, because of public health, then there is a huge issue. And like you said, I actually stopped watching there for a couple weeks. I'm not kidding. Yeah. I stopped watching, Liz.
I mean, and I have this suspicion, because there appear to be some severe anti-vax people on the Phillies as players. And then there are people like Andrew McCutchen and Rhys Hoskins, who seem normal.
Right.
Seem like they have a brain in their head. My thought is that it could not have been the most pleasant clubhouse atmosphere.
Exactly. A lot of changes are going to happen. And I really wanted to kind of just get into right off the bat the fact that there really were only 2 baseball players on this Philadelphia Phillies team this season who were just absolute gems. And that's about it. We know who they are. So let's start off with a certain gentleman in Bryce Harper. I mean, we saw an even better season from Bryce Harper than we thought. And it was all pissed away for a multitude of reasons. I mean, we just got done talking about the vaccination aspect of why the season was pissed away. I mean, it sucks that he's in his prime right now and is being wasted. I mean, heard you, Justin Clue, and John talking about it on the Hittin' Season podcast this past week. You know, and we wanted to get into it here. And I wonder how much of Bryce's comments after the season about focusing on homegrown talent in the farm, not simply buying every year, will actually resonate with the higher-ups in the organization from a more long-term perspective based on who Bryce Harper is, type of season he had. What are your thoughts on this, Liz?
I mean, I don't think he's telling them anything they don't know.
Right, yeah.
You know, he's not saying anything that's new or novel. I mean, Dave Dombrowski is painfully aware that our farm system is empty, essentially. There are a handful of guys, but they really want those guys to work out. And so I don't know how eager they're going to be to get rid of them in trades. You know, like, it is going to take some time to get this organization to the point where Harper wants it to be and where Dombrowski and everyone else wants it to be. And so everyone's going to have to be okay with the Phillies continuing to buy for a couple of years, because the only way you get young talent like that is trading or tanking. And there aren't a lot of guys the Phillies want to trade at the major league level right now, or at least there aren't a lot of guys that people would take anyone for. Like, I'm sure they would love to get rid of both Didi Gregorius and Odubel Herrera, but no one wants them.
Right.
No one wants them. And so they're staying put. There just aren't a lot of places for them to go except digging deeper into the wallet.
How does this happen? How does this happen in the world of Philly sports? We're seeing the same thing with Ben Simmons. I know we're talking about the Phillies here, but really, we have seen this time and time again in the world of Philly sports. There's something in the freaking
Eagles,
water.
I mean,
exactly.
All of them are bad.
All 4 of them. How is it possible that you can screw up this type of maneuvering from a front office perspective with all 4 teams? I can't understand it. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
No. Someone or the universe made a deal with the devil to get us the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And, whether we know it or not, we're paying for it.
We are.
And I think if you look at it, we've paid for every single championship that Philadelphia's ever had.
Absolutely. We absolutely
if you look
have.
at it.
Yeah.
So we are severely in debt and will be probably for a while. So we just have to get used to it.
We do.
As far as how it got here for the Phillies, like it's hard to believe how awful the Clentak McPhail era has been.
Absolutely.
Like it was a complete waste of time, honestly. It really was.
Waste of time, a waste of money, waste of various other resources, talent being brought in, being shipped out. I'm talking front office, personnel people with regard to development. How many development staff have we seen coming and going throughout the system? They can't get that right, Liz.
No, I think it was Matt Gelb's article in The Athletic about the Phillies' toxic developmental system it wasn't anything. I wasn't surprised, but I was sort of shocked at how bad it was. Yeah. I wasn't surprised that it happened, but I was shocked that it was so bad. And you can see it now that we know that this was happening, you could see it on the field. Alec Boehm didn't know which way was up. Scott Kingery barely knows which end of the bat to use anymore.
Right.
We've got guys like Mickey Moniak and Nick Maton not getting chances when, they should be getting chances. We've got it's mind-boggling.
It is.
how badly they've screwed this up.
Exactly. I mean, the one thing they did get right in recent years, and I'll move on to the other player I wanted to get into who was a gem this year, and that is Zach Wheeler. A stellar year from him, a career year that went to waste. And I'm not sure we've ever seen a team piss away a potential Cy Young candidate's year like the Phillies did, but here we are. They absolutely did. They pissed away Bryce Harper's years we were just talking about. Do you think there's any possible way that Zach Wheeler can replicate what he did this season, possibly next year, Liz?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
I mean, the good thing, chances are next year, probably not. But we know that this is potential. They've got this potential. Zach Wheeler is not Aaron Nola. We've been saying that about Aaron Nola. Like, we know what Aaron Nola's ceiling is. He could reach that again. That's probably not going to happen. Right. But Zach Wheeler has been, for both seasons, has been worth every single cent he's been paid. Every single cent he's earned, he's done exceptionally well. And whatever is happening with him, he really flourished under, the pitching, or hopefully doing his own thing and ignoring all of the coaches, not letting them bother him. It is possible. Like, I never believed we'd see a season like this from Harper ever again.
Right.
I was positive he would not ever put up numbers like he did in his MVP season, but he did. And
I think it goes to show really quick about Bryce Harper. I think it goes to show how mentally strong he is with regard to the game of baseball. And I think it needs to be said, because I don't necessarily think that is said enough, and especially from the detractors who said it was a terrible contract. We were absolutely just going to see garbage from him for 13 years. And I think it's important for people to know what type of baseball mind that he has, and even from a psychological standpoint, how he was able to take everything that happened with this team this year and still do what he did. It's pretty remarkable.
I mean, and he had help from no one. He had
no
help.
One. Right.
No one stepped up to help him. Mm-hmm. I was just looking up Zach Wheeler's stats, and the two best seasons of his career by far have come with Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So he likes it here. 2 seasons with a sub-3 ERA, he could do that again. I don't know if he'll be as, fully dominant as he was this year, but even, 85% of the pitcher that we saw this year would still be excellent for the Phillies to have.
Right.
So I don't want to say like neither of them can replicate this, because that's depressing.
Right. It is depressing to think about.
So profoundly depressing.
Yeah, it is. Going back to something that we were talking about and kind of glazed over a little bit earlier, was just reflecting on, the previous front office guys, whether it's Matt Clentak, Andy McPhail, and I've also been just reflecting on the prospects that we followed over the past 5 years. Trust the prospects. Hell, even the past decade, guys that just did not pan out or that were traded away, guys like J.P. Crawford, Mike Franco, holy cow, Cody Ashe, Aaron Altair, Jake Thompson. They were supposed to be that next wave of players to really...
Kobe Milner,
yes, to get us to better baseball days, Liz. And I just don't know how these guys in the front office can't be more reflective maybe than what they are. I mean, maybe their hands are tied. I mean, is it just a John Middleton thing, or was it just Andy McPhail and Matt Klentak and that failure? Maybe all of the above. Like, where does the accountability from the front office inevitably lie? I think it is with John Middleton, of course, but I mean, when we look at where the prospects just completely broke down, where do you think that actually came from?
I think at the top, as you said, is John Middleton. He will never face any consequences for what he has done.
Right.
He is a billionaire that owns a team. He'll face consequences for nothing, anything ever again. But it is his fault at the root of it, because he thought, you know what, I'm going to hire 88-year-old Andy McPhail to run this organization. After he's been through two others, admittedly well, he was amazing in his day, but that was a long time ago. And he hired Klentak, and both of them came from an Orioles organization that really had a very short period of success recently, and then just tremendous waves and waves of failure.
Right.
And whether it's intentional or unintentional. And I remember when Klentak was hired thinking, I am not excited about this. This is not a hire I'm excited about. I don't think he's the right guy for the job, but what can I do except get behind it, because otherwise it's going to be a long few years. And it was a long few years anyway.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, so it starts at Middleton, then it goes to McPhail, who always seemed like he would have rather been somewhere else. And he hired Klentak and then just ceded all responsibility for baseball operations. He ostensibly was supposed to run both the business side and the baseball side. He hired Klentak and, wiped his hands of it and said, I'm going to go look at the revenues for T-shirts for a while.
Right.
So Klentak is at fault. And Klentak is the one who hired the development guys, brought in the driveline guys, tried to get the Phillies up to speed, have them skip 8 to 15 different steps along the way, playing catch up and trying to ape what other teams did instead of trying to find what worked for the Phillies. And that's really where the fault lies, is Klentak and the guys that he hired. No one was ever on the same page. And then changes were made and new guys were brought in, but some of the old guys were still there, and everyone is fighting, at cross purposes. So the good thing, at least, is that everyone responsible for this is almost certainly no longer with the organization.
Right.
Those are the consequences that they get to face. The rest of us, meanwhile, have to live with it. We all have to live with J.P. Crawford on the Mariners being so excited still to be there. He's like, I'm ready to help this team. I'm ready to put this team on my back and carry them into the playoffs. And I'm just like sitting on the floor weeping, like, come back.
Right. Exactly.
That remains the one trade I will be depressed about for years, because I loved J.P. Crawford. He was my favorite.
I love watching what he's doing in Seattle, because to be honest with you, my AL team's the Mariners that I like to follow, that I have for many, many years, and it's because of Ken Griffey Jr. And if you like him, if you don't, I've always followed the Mariners. I just have, that's not like it's not like the Phillies, but
everyone has an AL team.
Exactly. I wish him the best. I really do. And I love seeing the success he's having.
No, he's really come into his own. He was like a big force on the team last year with Black Lives Matter, which I thought was, besides Andrew McCutchen, I thought was kind of missing on the Phillies. Yeah. And I remember thinking, man, it would be cool if we had a guy like J.P. Crawford, or maybe just J.P. Crawford himself on this team. Thanks, Matt Klentak.
Right. Exactly. We were talking about one of Matt Gelb's pieces recently here, and I think Matt Gelb actually wrote in a piece this past week saying that there could be 20 guys not back on this Phillies team next year due to the changes we're likely seeing in this, that we will see in this offseason.
Some of them are very much garbage.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, is there any way for this team to somehow just get rid of like a lot of this stink here and somehow, Liz, replenish the farm farm system with prospects, maybe through trades? I mean, it's a very general question. How do you see the offseason manifesting itself, and in what areas of player development, perhaps maybe like right off the bat? What are your thoughts?
I don't know what they're going to be able to do with some of these guys. I mean, there are at least 20 dudes on this 40-man roster that could not be back next year. There are a number of dudes on this roster that I barely know.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I know Ramon Rosso is a player. I could not pick him out of a lineup.
Right.
Same with Christopher Sanchez. Who's Francisco Morales? I don't know. So they could, if they take them off, if they're young, then they're unprotected and could be picked up in the Rule 5. But I think depending on what they want to do, it's worth the risk. There is nothing that should be off limits for the Phillies this season. Literally nothing. Like, with the exception of trading Zach Wheeler, Bryce Harper, and for me personally, Ranger Suarez, who was one of my bright shining stars of the season.
Yeah.
Those are the three guys I think are untouchable. Everyone else, see what you can get. I mean, trading JT would be an embarrassment considering, they just signed him.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, not going to happen. You don't let go of that, no matter how frustrating he was this season. But aside from that, they should consider everything, whether it's launching them off and, towards the sun or sending them somewhere, like California, Seattle. It doesn't really matter. As long as they can get some dudes back, that's important. But one of the biggest things they have to do, which they didn't do at all this year, was sign free agents.
Yeah.
Like, they went, how Chase Anderson and Matt Moore were on this team for so long is baffling, because there were a lot of dudes just sitting out there that could have been signed or traded for nothing, and they did nothing.
Right.
I was absolutely floored when I realized this season that they hadn't, I'm trying to remember, there's a player near the end of the season that they could have picked up on waivers because they had priority, but they didn't even put it in a claim. And it would have been, I'm trying to remember who the heck that was.
I'm forgetting. Yeah.
Yes. Someone out there is yelling at their phone. Whoever it's the name of whoever it is. Thank you to whoever that is. I apologize that I can't hear you. But their lack of interest in improving the team during the year in a material way, aside from the trade deadline, was baffling.
Yeah.
I just didn't get it, which is why I kept saying, like, it feels like Dave Dombrowski's taken a gap year. Like, he's like, we're not going over the luxury tax, no matter how good we're doing. I have to take time to observe everything. So I'm going to go do that. Sam Folds, who no one has heard from in ages.
My God, I forgot he was running things. Jeez.
No, he hasn't. But I mean, no idea. Like, he nowhere to be seen. Like, I'm going to guess it just said, here are the keys, but we're not giving you any of the credit cards.
Right. Exactly.
You can open and close the stadium in the morning and at night, but you can't do anything else but make sure no one, falls off of the, the 400 level or whatever.
Exactly.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. Well, I remember I talked to John Stallness, our good friend, a couple weeks ago, probably about a month ago now. And I remember during our conversation, Liz, we were talking about the fact that, I mean, it seems like every offseason, even the guys that they do bring in, the Matt Moores, Chase Anderson from this past season, and even in previous seasons, these guys just don't hit. Whatever, like scrap heap guys, or, even like the David Robertsons, like, guys injured. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work out when they bring in these free agent type of guys. It just hasn't worked out. Of course, they bring in JT Realmuto based on a trade, but when they're signing guys, like, there is a disconnect with regard to the analytics department, I think, from the pro development perspective of things, where they're just not bringing in guys that are producing at all during free agency. And that's a big problem. I think it's just part of the disconnect all over the organization on baseball operations. Like, I always remember thinking, what is the stats department doing? Yeah.
Like, I have tremendous respect. I know, it's several of the people who work there. I have tremendous respect for what they do. But from the outside, it's like, is anyone sending anyone any advanced stats about the people they're signing? Is anyone looking into players that they could sign? Like, on another team, you would imagine Chase Anderson throws up another awful start, you're like, you know what? Let's just send him away and sign someone else. If there's no one in AAA, there are pitchers everywhere.
Right. Exactly.
That haven't been signed. There are pitchers always. You could trade a low-level minor league guy that you don't care about for a pitcher of, not of note, but at least a guy who could eat 5 innings.
Yes. they desperately needed that this year.
And they just didn't seem interested.
Right.
Like they added two dudes at the deadline, and they ended up being like 1.5 of them were a failure.
Right.
Like, I think, was it Gibson?
It was Gibson.
Gibson was sort of fine. He is what they hoped Matt Moore or Chase Anderson would have been. That's the type of guy that they hoped he would be.
Right.
And I'm glad they brought in someone like that, but they wasted their time on 2 other guys who were definitely not that.
Right.
Like, it's whatever the disconnect is, hopefully Dombrowski can fix it, because it's been the reason the Phillies have not been able to do well. Like, when you have, a final week record over the past several years that the Phillies do, I think, John, it was something ridiculous. They've won so few games in the last week of the season over the last 4 or 5 years. That's not at that point, it's not luck.
Right.
That's not bad luck. That's a culture problem.
Right. Right.
As you said. And that is, and I can't do anything but agree.
Yeah.
At this point, the Phillies, they have big loser energy, as John has said. They have big loser energy all over the place. Spencer Howard said he was elated to be on the Rangers.
Yes, he did.
I'm just like, no one is happy to be on the Rangers. But this guy is, because he escaped the Phillies.
Yeah.
He was elated to be there.
Again, folks, talking to Liz Rocher, Yahoo Sports. Continued Success. Yeah, Continued Success podcast. And you can find her on Twitter at Liz Rocher. It's a great follow. And last topic, I guess, here to get into, Liz. Man, we can go on all night here, but I remember you said this past week in the Hidden Season podcast that one of the main reasons why the Phillies didn't go to the playoffs this year was because of Joe Girardi and his overall management of the team. And I definitely think that you have there's a lot of validity to what you were saying on the show. And I'm wondering, is that where we're going to see some accountability perhaps this offseason? Do you think they're actually going to get rid of Joe Girardi? Because we've seen how successful, the Phillies' old manager was out in San Francisco this past year. I mean, it's just, I know, but I'm wondering if from an accountability perspective, where they go from here, and is Joe Girardi going to be like a casualty? Should he be? I know you think he should be, probably, but what are your thoughts here in terms of the accountability this offseason?
I think they've already said that he's coming back, but his contract is only for 2022.
Right. Yeah.
And from the way they said it, doesn't seem like they're going to extend that.
Right.
Because again, Dombrowski was a pick from the old regime. He was the compromise hire between Middleton and Klentak. He was the compromise hire. He was not someone that Dombrowski picked. And now he's heading the organization. He's going to want his own guy, and I can't blame him. Because one of the things I constantly screamed into the night, into microphones at my television over the season was, is anyone paying attention to how Joe Girardi is running things? Because, while he's a big boy manager, he can handle stuff on his own. He doesn't need his hand held. And that's part of the reason they hired him. But in my mind, he cannot possibly be given full reign over everything.
Especially lineup decisions.
Exactly. Lineup decisions, pitching changes. Like, is anyone in the organization paying attention to this?
Yeah.
Because there are 2 choices. It's either what he's doing is everyone is fully on board, or no one's paying attention and they're just letting him go because, again, Dave Dombrowski is busy trying to figure out who's at fault over in player development. I have to hope that next season they put a leash on him, or at least give him some expectations.
Right.
I feel like maybe that was missing. Like, this is what we need. Nick Maton is up. He needs at-bats. Make sure you start him. Ronald Torreyes is not a priority. I don't care how much you like him. If I see Travis Jankowski in another lineup, I'm sending you to AAA. These are the things that need to be done.
Right.
And that with how close the Phillies came to the playoffs, with all of their problems, with all of their inconsistencies, with the up and down season, they came close to making the playoffs. And in my mind, while you can look at that last week and the sweep from the Braves as, the thing that really ended it, if you look back, there are hundreds of tiny decisions that impacted the outcome of games. And those were made by Joe Girardi. Why is this pitcher resting today? He threw 4 pitches yesterday. Oh, no. These were my problems. Right. And this is what drove me absolutely insane this season, was his management style, the way he managed games, the way he put together lineups, the way he used his players, the way he was resting pitchers. All of it seemed bad. And I don't blame Dombrowski for being like, we're paying you for 2022, so you're gonna manage in 2022.
Yeah.
But you're gonna be a lame duck. So.
And I can see him putting some sort of leash on him. I could see there being some sort of stipulations that he needs to, like you said, maybe have some benchmarks or something like that, some goals that he needs to achieve, say, by June or by the trade deadline, this or this needs to happen. And I don't think that's a tall ask. I really don't. I don't think that's awful.
I can't imagine an organization in which the manager is allowed to do whatever they want at any time. I can't imagine that Gabe Kapler is just doing whatever he wants, independent of the front office and of baseball operations.
Right.
Right? I can't imagine that is the case anywhere, but it felt like it was the case in Philadelphia. That is, to me, the biggest reason that the Phillies didn't make it to the playoffs was Joe Girardi. And there are valid disagreements with that. He's certainly just one factor. But for me, he's at the very top of the list. I cannot wait until he is not manager of the Phillies anymore. I hate that. I was so looking forward to him being hired. It was
same
great.
Here.
We all were.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm very negative, but it comes from a lot of experience. But that doesn't mean I'm always negative about the new things. I was excited about Gabe Kapler, despite the stuff that happened with the Dodgers. I was excited about Joe Girardi. I even tried to be excited about Matt Klentak. And, as much as I was bored and annoyed by that hire 8 million years ago now, I do give these guys a chance. I didn't start berating Joe Girardi on the podcast for at least a month, if not longer.
Right.
It took a number of unexplainable pitching changes, and substitutions. His 8 billionth double switch for no reason. Can the man not manage without the DH? He can't.
Right.
He can't. And he started in the National League. I believe his first job was with the Marlins managing. Marlins have never been an American League team. They've always been National League. You have had to manage without the DH. Why couldn't he figure that out? Why was he allowed to do that for so long?
It's amazing.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. Folks, you can find her on Twitter at Liz Rocher. Again, check out her work over at Yahoo Sports. And Liz, it was just great talking to you. And oh, by the way, folks, the Continued Success Podcast, you got to listen to it. Just subscribe to the goodfight.com's podcast platform. I subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It's great listening to everybody on that podcast platform. Of course, Liz, you do a great job, you, Justin. And, I want to have you on again down the road, if you don't mind, to talk about this team.
I'm happy to come on at any time. I have very little actual Eagles expertise, but I'm always happy to spout off about them too.
Oh my gosh. We got, Eric and I were just talking about them a little while ago, and I don't know, expectations aren't too high there either, my friend.
Nope.
It is a rough time right now in Philly sports. It really is. I mean, we got the Flyers coming. We're big-time Flyers fans here. But still, after last season, it's like, God, the only place they can go is up at this point. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Everything seems slightly shambolic.
Absolutely.
Over at the Flyers. And let's not even start with the Sixers, who I love dearly. I love basketball. I love watching the Sixers. What a mess. What a mess.
It's a cluster, you know what? Absolutely is. Again, Liz Roaster, folks. And Liz, come back and join us. We'd love to have you.
Anytime.
As always, Liz was great. She's not trying to be negative, folks, and we're not trying to be negative here. This is what it is with this Philadelphia Phillies team. What else can we possibly hang our hats on, again, other than a great, great year from Zach Wheeler, and as Liz said, likely able to replicate something similar to it next year. Bryce Harper, still an amazing baseball player, and I think he's going to continue to be an amazing baseball player for at least the foreseeable future. I want to say years to come. It's temper expectations, but the fact that he was able to do what he did this year with that baseball mind that he has and get through all the garbage and nonsense to do what he did is absolutely remarkable, as I mentioned during our discussion there with Liz. So anyway, that's going to do it for us this week, folks. If you're new to the show, we would greatly appreciate it if you're listening on whatever podcast platform, if you would rate and review the show, especially on Apple Podcasts. It really does help us out. We've been doing this for over 8.5 years. It's a great hobby for us. It's great getting together, talking with Len, Eric, and just talking about the world of Philly sports and sports in general. We love our guests that we have on every single week. We so much appreciate them taking the time out of their day. And again, we've been doing this 8.5 years. Nobody's been doing it longer in the world of Philly sports, and we're so very proud of that, and we're going to keep going here. Follow us on Twitter at PhiladelphiaPST. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeffrey_Warren, and again with Eric at Brick Pollitt. And make sure you're following us on Instagram if you're not already. You can like our Facebook page too. We are over at PhiladelphiaSportsTable.com. If something happens to your podcast feed, you can certainly just head on over to our website. We've got all our podcasts up over there as well. So that's going to do it for us this week, everybody. Take care, and we'll catch you next time.
Temps will be cooling down, and before you know it, you'll be turning on your furnace. Before you do, turn to the experts at Griffith Energy Services and Carrier. Get an $88 heating system start-in check from Griffith to make sure your family stays comfortable all winter long. Griffith specializes in Carrier, but services all brands. Visit GriffithEnergyServices.com for this and other exclusive offers. That's GriffithEnergyServices.com. License number MD-HVAC R01-2278.
Griffith Energy Services. Doggone dependable.
Every day, thousands of hackers try to steal your crypto. But Arculus uses air-gapped technology by forming a protective barrier that insulates you from hackers and secures your crypto. Order yours at GetArculus.com.